Hi, I'm Allison Miller, the CEO and founder of Happy Camper Live, and we are here at the Raising a Happy Camper podcast with RJ Garrison. Welcome, RJ.
Thank you. Great to be here, Allison. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm super excited for us to talk today. I mean, we're just going to have fun talking about camp, which I can do 24/7. So here we are. I would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience, RJ.
My name is RJ Garrison. I have an extensive background in working at a variety of different camps and camp settings and camp type programs, both uh, in the United States and with the military overseas. I have a bachelor's degree in outdoor education and camp administration. And I love what camps do for our kids and our adults. I think adults should have camps and go to camps as well. So
I just ran a camp for adults last weekend for
yeah,
200 women, 22 to 34 years old. So it was
that's
awesome.
fantastic.
And you
Yes,
really can see that camp is something that, should be in the lives of everyone. We all need that spirit and fun and friendship and connections and all the great things that camp brings to our lives. So it's fun to be here with you, RJ. Your background is pretty extensive in camp, actually. I'd love to hear, what was the first camp experience that you had?
first camp experience. I went to a camp in New England, in man, back when I was in high school. I guess that's probably kind of where most of us, either in high school or even pre-high school, start with camp.
Mhm.
It's called New England Frontier Camp. It's on Kezar Lake in Lovell, Maine. Kezar Lake's rated by National Geographic one of the top 10 lakes in the world for
Oh, wow.
cleanliness and beauty, and rightfully so. It's maybe half an hour from the. It's away from cities and busyness and internet and all the stuff that just kind of sucked life out of you. And again, one of the top lakes in the world. Uh, and it's just an amazing place. So I went there. I was in high school, and I went with a buddy of mine, and just for a week. And at the end of the
Mhm.
week, I was like, I don't want to go home. I want to stay here, and I want to. And I actually asked, and they actually allowed. Like, I think I was 15 at the time, and so I was right at the age where, like, you can be a kitchen worker and kind of hang out with the staff and be a free staff, you know, worker and stay at camp. And my mom was like, "No, we've got a trip we have to take." So
You had to go home. You had to go
yeah,
home. But
I
that was
went
not
back the
the
next
end.
year. Went
I
back
was
the
going to say
next
that
year
was
as a
not the end of your journey.
no. Went back the next year as a counselor in training. Following year as a junior counselor. Following year, graduate from high school as a senior counselor. Worked there as program director, as a waterfront director. Went back in 2001 to be a program director, and just amazing time. My mom noticed every time I came home from camp that I was a much nicer, much easier kid to get along with than free going to camp. So
We always say that it's like, okay, so we're going to send them home in this awesome way. And it's for you to like keep the awesomeness. The parents are like, who is this child? And then,
right.
I always encourage them, like, if they came home and they're making their bed, just keep that expectation there, or just being polite or, how they get along. There's so many great things that kids learn. And I think parents just kind of think it goes away, but you can really nurture that in the off season.
I think with camp, and not that kids don't get this at home, but there's this constant, like, do better, be better, do better, be better. You're doing great, keep it going, from everywhere, from the staff members that are encouraging you, to the camp director, or the your camp counselor, to the other kids around you. You're doing stuff, and it's all about encouragement, where I think you
Yeah.
lose some of that because you go home and you do something that's wrong and you get into trouble, and then you start fighting with your parents, and you don't usually fight with your counselors or your, so much. So
No, I think that's such a key word and haven't really like focused on that in the podcast, but this encouragement and camp, like you said, you get it from everywhere. It's from your friends, it's from, just activities. You're always being encouraged. The counselors being role models are there to encourage you. And I do agree, like our world or campers' worlds, when they go home, get limited. And it can be discouraging. Your tryout for a team for your, middle school or high school sport, or, I mean, there's, obviously disappointment, and not like camp doesn't have disappointment along the way for sure. But when there's disappointment, there's a lot of people there to pick you up. And, when you are home, you have your teachers, you have your parents, you have your friends, but there's definitely a different sense of that. So that is a pretty key factor, I think, in what makes the camp experience so special. So I thank you for bringing that out. It's something that I think people don't really like focus on, but that is really key. Yeah.
yeah.
So you had all these great experiences yourself, and then you went on to do camp administration, studying it in college, and that's a unique course of study, actually, the program that you took. I would love to hear a little bit more about that and why you
So
made that choice.
um, so when I was looking at colleges, I was looking around, and um, I knew I liked camp stuff. Like I've been going to camp, and that had been the highlight of my year. From my sophomore year, junior year, senior year, was going to camp. Was just kind of having the guys that I at camp hung out with, the you know so some mentors that were able to say, hey, you know what, you can be better, you can do better, and just so I always look forward to that. And So when I started looking at schools, I started looking at programs that had recreation programs. I'm like, I like recreation. Let's do some of that. One of those schools I looked at, and my dad actually got out of the military, retired from the military, and went to work at the school, which made it then tuition free, which was
Very
really easy
accessible.
in getting my was they had a political science, up and coming political science program, which I wanted to study political science. They had a recreation program, and I think my initial thoughts were to do environmental law. So doing recreation for the environmental studies part of it, and then the political science for politics and environmental changes was what I originally wanted to do, and ended up both of the majors had classes that were offered like every other year at the same exact time.
Oh,
I only got 4 years of free tuition, so I went with the recreation degree instead of the mix of both. So,
right. It's interesting because I'm a lawyer by background, RJ.
oh.
So yeah, it was my path. We have a couple of things that cross. One is I have a theater background as well,
Okay.
and I know you taught theater camp. And then I
Yes.
ended up going to law school and then practiced law and then bought a summer camp and then developed Happy Camper Lives. So you never know where your paths take you. I don't know if it's been great to be a lawyer and be a camp director. You sort of see things sometimes in a way that you probably don't want to all the time. But it is actually what makes me, I think, great at what I do. Is I'm a good problem solver. But I was thinking about the military side of your background, and our goal at Happy Camper Live is to bring summer camp to every kid in the world, no matter where they are, financially, socioeconomically, geographically, health issues, all the things that prevent a child from maybe attending a physical summer camp or attending a camp in the United States. one of the things you have done is actually worked with the military in camp programs overseas. And I would love to hear about that some more. We've had similar work that we've done too in the US.
Okay. So we've got child and youth programs, which is kind of Army and Air Force have them both, or child and youth services that have basically kind of the youth center after school, like their after school
Mm-hmm.
youth center. And during the summer, there's no school, and so uh, they have camps that they set up, and I have a friend Brian who's currently working for youth programs. I need to get him on your podcast here. He does a robotics camp. He does a
Mm-hmm.
board game camp. He like if he's the tech guy at the youth center, so he's like he does a claymation camp where
Oh,
all the kids
cool.
are putting claymation together, and stuff like that. And they're just day camps for those camps. But when I was working for youth programs, almost 20 years ago at this point, I had a boss that I'd go in and I'd say, "Hey, I'd like to do a camp," and he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I want to do this." And he's like, "Let's do it." So pretty much, if I say, I got to do a fear factor camp, and I went down to the commissary and I went through, and I'm like, what will kids find really disgusting, or what can I make? Yeah, it's like so. So we'll talk about the fear factor camp. Like, I grabbed kidney beans, and I said they were like frog kidneys. I grabbed blueberries and said their eyeballs. I blindfolded the kids, and then they had to
Right.
taste it. I did artichoke hearts and said they were some sort of animal heart. That was the one that the kids couldn't. They're like
That's
gagging.
funny.
So, and then we would do safe but scary things. Like we went. I don't know. Skating down the ramp at the skate park, but seated on a skateboard type thing. Different different
So
things
maybe
that,
added their comfort, but not
yeah, out
like
of comfort zone.
unsafe, right? Not
Rock
every
climbing
kid
type.
wants. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to go down to there's an indoor rock climbing wall. We'll go do the indoor rock climbing wall one day. We'll go do this one day. We'll do the food, and this is like a half day camp type thing. So
Right. It sounds like they
it
had a
was a
lot
lot
of
of fun.
fun.
We filmed the kids and then let them watch themselves afterwards.
Oh, that's fun.
so
That's a good idea,
so
actually. Well, now they can see all that on social media, but I'm sure back then, oh, let's make this into a little video. Must have been a fun
right.
aspect to it.
Right.
But
And
it
then the parents
really,
would come in afterwards and they get to watch it. So, and then, but one of the things I got to do was I was like, okay, these kids are here all summer. So they're going to sign up for whatever camp generally we provide. And the base that I was on, like, so I'm in a for 50,000 Americans within a 20-mile radius. 20 years ago, it was probably closer to 70. We're the largest American community outside the United States. I'm in Germany, by the way.
mhm.
So the so we've got all these kids, and I was just like, hey, can I do a theater camp for 3 weeks instead of 1 week?
Oh, wow.
Day camp, theater camp. And my boss is like, sure, because he was awesome. And if I had a good idea and he thought I could keep kids busy, which I was pretty good at, he'd let me run with it. He'd find the money and say, let's do it. And a little bit different than a camp in the States is our funding is generally through the U.S. through your tax dollars.
Mhm.
So thank you for your taxes. We do make some money, like the parents do pay some for the camp, but it's not.
Mhm.
It's subsidized by the U.S. military funds for the military for the kids. So I'm like, I want to do a Midsummer Night's Dream. I've got a dumbed down version of it with a group of about, I think, a dozen kids.
Wow.
My niece wanted to be part of it because she's an actress. My sister then got involved because her daughter's involved. So I had a type A stage manager that's really organized in my house is my board games, which if you're listening to this, you can't see it, but behind me is a big wall, big shelf of board games. and my CDs, which I don't listen to anymore because we're now in the digital age. So,
Right.
but 3 weeks. So I got 3 weeks to produce, direct, create Midsummer Night's Dream, and this was an all-day camp. So we did morning, took a lunch break, afternoon.
Mhm.
I was able to go take them swimming once a week. So we go and hit the pool one afternoon once a week. We do theater games and just fun run around regular camp games, team building
That's,
games, and we did a full production of A Midsummer Night's Dream.
that's awesome.
So I've got a story about the we were talking about encouragement and stuff like that
Hmm.
from this camp. We had this kid Tyler, okay, and Tyler was ADHD. He was very hyper, and and yeah, at one point, and he's probably the reason I lost my hair. Not really. But he was a good kid. Like he wanted to have fun, but he just didn't connect with people, and he was looking for attention, and he didn't do it in the right way. So that makes sense. I'm sure it does
Hmm.
because you're a camp director and you've seen that. And so we were doing an activity. I was like, okay, everybody grab a partner. And he's 10, right? Nobody would partner with him, which then he just like broke down and he's crying because nobody wanted to be his friend, nobody partnered with him. And he knew it was because of his actions, but he was still upset because, he's 10 and that's
Hmm.
understandable. And so I took the older kids. I had like 10 through, I think my oldest was like 16 or 17.
Hmm.
Um, and I took the older kids. I'm like, come over here. I'm like, okay, you guys are buddies with Tyler. They're like, no. I'm like, yes. If he's looking for a partner, you partner with him. If he needs something, you do something with him. If I'm like, whatever it is, you guys be his friend and help him. If he gets out of line, I will take care of it. You let me know. You don't
Hmm.
yell at him. You don't get upset with him. You take a deep breath. You step away. You come get me. I'll take care of it if he's out of line. But I want you guys to encourage him. They started doing that. He stopped driving them nuts.
Hmm.
It was great. It was like it was a change. And one of the times we went to the pool, and so sidestep back to New England Frontier Camp. New England Frontier Camp, when I turned 18, as soon as I graduated from high school, I got my WSI. I don't
Hmm.
like teaching swimming, but I wanted to drive the speedboat. You have your WSI to drive the speedboat. So I went and got my WSI so I could drive the speedboat. Fast fast forward to theater camp here, and we're at the swimming pool. So I'm teaching Tyler how to swim. Taught him how to do backstroke, taught him how to float, taught him how to stand up if he kind of freaks out. So now he's excited because he can do something, which he wasn't able to do at the beginning of the camp, right? He goes
Hmm.
over and tells one of our other kids, one of the older kids, look what I can do, and shows him. And the other kid went to my sister and he's like, that was weird. He's just like showing me what he can do swimming wise. And my sister's like, that's because you're encouraging him.
Hmm.
That's because you're taking time and he wanted to share that with you.
Right.
And he's like, oh, so then there's reinforcement to the older kids to be his buddy, do good. It was just kind of a continual thing, which was amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I think that age of 15, 16, when you can be that counselor in training, weren't formally in a program. What you did was enlisted them in this counselor and training experience where they took responsibility as a role model for
Right.
Tyler and could also see for themselves the impact that they can have on, looking at a child in a different way. I actually just did a podcast before this on neurodivergent strategies and how to work with kids in, I was talking about the camp setting and ways to set them up for success and how that's different than in the school setting. And it's a really great example in terms of what you just gave us is there's different ways to provide that encouragement and to have the successes, and it doesn't have to look the same
Right.
that it might look, in school. So I love working with the 15 and 16-year-olds at camp and seeing that, one, we inspire careers like you have been inspired. It's not necessarily what you do full time now, but it's part of who you are, is to provide the experience by sharing your passion, and to know that to feel that, I don't know, fulfillment when you can have that, experience of just even kids being in A Midsummer's Night Dream that would never even be in a show, but signed up because they liked you. And they were like, oh, well, he ran a great beer factory. I don't know. I don't know. Sure, that'll be fun. Maybe we'll do crazy things at night. And they don't even know what they're signing up
Right.
for.
Right.
Right. But they do it because of you. And it's the connections that they make with their role models, which is what I'm really getting from this conversation, is, how much you enjoy being a role model for kids and enlisting others in doing that. It it's really also interesting to me to hear about the experience of working in the military, in providing programs where they rely on adults to step up and to say, hey, I want to work with kids, and you're not in the same structure where you need to be certified as a teacher. Like, I mean, like I can teach science or I can teach English, where you have to do that. And yes, you're, certified as being working safely with kids and all of that background. So I'm not suggesting that camp counselors and adults are not, screened and all of that. But what you're able to do is just tap into something you love and say, how am I going to share this, with kids? How can I do that? And that is something that's available to any adult. So I
Right.
find this really inspiring that you can just go out, and that's how I feel. I feel like, camp provides this place for us as adults to really just share our passions for kids. And that's what we do at Happy Camp Alive. We share all these different passions, our role models, and we hope to inspire the kids. So
Right.
I feel like there's a lot of synergy between your experience and what I'm up to.
Well, I think part of it is like if you get, especially if you get some creative people, and I mean you don't even have to be that creative. You can just go on YouTube to find things that are fun. But part of working at camp, part of being one of the people that's working is like, especially with something like the military camps that we were providing, the youth camps that we were providing, is it's kind of you have the opportunity to be able to like, what do I think it would be fun that I can get them involved with? Like, and even not with the military camp, but like with the camp in Maine, like we had the counselors like set up this gigantic cardboard castle,
Fun.
like a two-story cardboard castle. And
Wow.
it was really just kind of a face of castle with some things holding it up and little holes in it all over the place. And the kids were then armed with a gazillion water balloons
Right.
attacking the castle, and then the a bunch of the counselors were behind the cat with like hoses and stuff like that. And it was like an amazing, like we had fun building the castle. We had fun soaking the kids. We had fun getting hit by water. I mean, like we're like, this would be awesome to do. Let's do it. And then the kids are like, wow, let's do it. And it's what can you do that gets other people involved? What can you do that gets the kids active, that gets kids moving, that gets kids engaged with each other, engaged with the counselors, engaged with life, really. You know, that's kind of one of the things I just love about having that kind of flexibility and freedom to be able to think of what would be a lot of fun for me. That's going to be a lot of fun for them. And
Yeah.
I work with a doctor. He's got two boys, I think. Um, and one of them had a birthday party this weekend. I'm like, so what are you guys doing? He's like, Nerf gun wars. My wife went out and bought like 2,000 Nerf gun bullets. And I'm like, well, you're going to have fun. And he's like, I also found this thing called a human pinata. And I'm like, that does not sound fun. He's like, no, it's pretty good. It's like you have candy duct taped all over you and you run around, they chase you down and pull the candy off. I guess. So
Oh, you roll in the candy. We did that in a
I've
little
seen it.
exercise. And then you do, you have the tape on you, you roll for people who want a fun idea,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
they're not hitting you with a stick. They're just grabbing the candy off. It's really cute. A human pinata. Yeah, there's so many fun ideas. And I think that's right. Like I always look at it two things. One, I say if tap dance to DJing to magic. We actually teach all these activities on Happy Camper Live that I have filmed. I'm like, and now we are on TV too, Happy Kids TV and Kidoodle TV. We have our own TV show. And so all of this is like, if I'm learning, I know the kids are learning because as an adult, I really try to like put myself. That's what we say about the counselors. Like counselors jump in, they're having fun. There's no question the kids are going to have a good time too. One of the things we were just talking about in this other podcast as well was that kids are there's kids that are have a different time experiencing social situations. And I think what you were able to do with your experience with Tyler was really to adapt, your program to meet his needs, but also allowing him to be himself,
Right.
and explaining to the kids how to be with him and not sort of shutting him down and not you had your program accommodate who he is. And I think that that's really special too in terms of the experience that you've provided. It's not camp doesn't have to be as structured and cookie cutter as that academic classroom, right, where they have to perform and be a certain way. And
Right.
allowing the kids that freedom in the summer is super important, so it just kind of made me think a little bit about that too.
Yeah. I mean, I had a kid in the same camp that his mom came up to me and she goes, "Hey, I want my kid to Casey. I'm gonna throw." No.
Little
Um,
Casey.
he's like, and like he's really quiet. He doesn't want to go outside. He just wants to be on his computer. He doesn't want to. He goes, but I'm going to put him in your camp. He says he doesn't want to park. He just wants to do tech. And I'm like, okay, I'll work with that. So I think Jan, my sister, and I talked him into doing just a minor part.
Uh-huh.
And it was like the Prince. And I was just like, and he's like, okay. And he was quiet. He was like kind of withdrawn. But then I had like three Tylers in this group. So another Tyler, who was like uh, uh, Casey and Tyler were like they're like 13, 14. They were like not the oldest teens, but they were kind of closer to the older age group. And Tyler is like, we're going to be friends. And I'm like, thanks, Tyler. And then him and Casey, like Casey is like, I got a friend, you know? And so they're like best buds the entire summer. But then I had another part come up that was less than what Casey had been given. And I'm like, hey man, less lines. He's like, no, I want to keep this part. I'll do both if you want me to. I'm like, dude,
Wow.
that's awesome. Because he got engaged, he got
Right.
connected. And that's, it's like that's kind of one of my main goals for getting even having kids go to camp, having kids be involved in whatever is for them to connect with
Yeah,
other
and feel
kids.
part of something. And when they feel part of something, they feel safe and they can take more risks. And,
And they
you
grow.
created that kind of, yeah, and they grow. It's harder and harder to recruit camp counselors in the United States these days. There's a lot of competing interests in terms of getting internships and, pressure for certain jobs within their career path. Like if you were studying the law, like having to try being here. And I encourage all of those things, but I think that you really bring out the benefits of being a counselor, and how, as you look back 20 years, right, or whenever these programs were, which you said were quite a while ago, and to remember the names and to feel the joy and to see the impact, and look at them as adults and going, oh, I wonder about Tyler, and like how did this affect him? That must have like given him some confidence along the way. And I bet if you spoke to Tyler, maybe that should be the next podcast. I think maybe I just came up with my next podcast. I think we like
Where's Tyler?
reunite. Yeah, no, we reunite like campers
Yeah.
and counselors. We should do this, RJ. I got it. All right. And so that you can see like what that impact is, because unfortunately, the pool of applicants of people applying for summer camps has definitely shrunk. And I know a lot of job markets have been incredible. And I think you're just, sharing your experience has really opened my eye up to the possibilities of how we can really show younger people, 16 to, like in their 20s, to think about this as just an experience they should have at some point in their life, whether it's a week or 6 weeks. Give back, share your passion, and you'll see that it will pay off, for you, but also for these kids' lives. So this was super interesting, RJ. We didn't really know exactly where we were going today, but
No
we
idea.
went
Yeah.
to just the perfect place. I always try that, saying yes to being on the Raising a Happy Camper podcast, and
Absolutely.
being here from, Germany. And I want to talk more about your board games, but we're going to have to save that for our next podcast. When we reunite you, we're going to reunite you with Tyler. We're going to find Tyler, right?
All right.
Okay. And then we're
I've
going to,
got the other Tyler actually on Facebook, the older
there you
Tyler.
go.
I've got
I
him
don't
on Facebook.
know. We're
I
going
don't know
to
if he's connected with the
reunite.
younger Tyler or not, but he might be connected with Casey. I
Well,
should
that
check.
we'll have to find Tyler, okay? And when we find Tyler, we will find Tyler, and bring the two of you together. But in a way that you haven't spoken about anything in these 20 years, I think it'd be super cool. Um, but yeah, I mean, look, obviously you're a playful person. The board games behind you, we share a passion for that. Um, and that in itself like teaches you a lot about life and winning and losing and competition, and being able to, you know, just have healthy ways around all of those things, right? And that's part about camp. That's
Yeah.
part of camp too.
So
So
I
thank you for
ran more recently. I'm going to throw this in and then I'll shut up.
sure.
More recently, I ran a teen board game group, and at one of our local libraries, and it was 13 and up. So and I had like five different parents at some point. It ran for a couple of years, but I had like five different parents that came up and said, "My kid used to not have any friends, not want to do anything, not want to leave the house." And now they're like, I can't wait to see my friends at board game group.
Yeah.
I'm like, connecting. That's really,
It's so important now, as they say. I hate to sound so cliche, but it's like it's so important now more than ever, and to have adults that, step up like you and put yourself, volunteer your time. And, I know one of your dreams too is to have a camp for kids that are challenged with diabetes, and creating that um, atmosphere for them to be together, to share. You can tell me a little bit about that dream, because we do want to make sure that people hear about that, and hopefully you'll put that into the universe and it'll happen. So share with us that dream, and then we'll come back and meet Tyler next time.
absolutely. The dream is I work, as I said at the beginning, I work as a pediatric nurse right now, with the hospital here in Germany, the U.S. Army hospital here in Germany. And so I've been trying to push to do a diabetic camp for type 1 or type 2 diabetics. Usually, if they're youth, they're type 1. And the problem is there's not a whole lot here because the diabetes kind of keeps them from getting here. But we do have them here in the area, it's again, we're talking about connection, being able to connect with other type 1. You're not alone. You're not by yourself. I'm a type 1 diabetic myself, to know that there's other kids out there, and then get them talking like, oh, what do you do about this? What do you do about low blood sugars? What do you do about high blood sugars? How do you deal with this? How do you deal with your mom yelling at you all the time, or be on your case or whatever, and
Right.
just being able to talk, and then us going out and doing something fun,
Right.
at the same time. So, but yeah, that's kind of what I'd love to do, a week long summer day camp, kind of like we do here, but have doctor and nurse in a bus and take kids out, and they'd be talking on the bus about their insulin pump and connecting, and also have a captive audience to talk about diabetes for a little bit until we get to wherever we're the park or the amusement park or wherever we're going for the day for as a day camp. So
Right. No, I think that's great. And we interviewed a camp. Runs a lot of different kinds of family camps and regular camp programs for kids. And one of the things they were talking about is just like being able to like take a fun atmosphere like camp and like smash like you're more familiar with like the support systems, but like a pump and like smash it or build it or like have this kind of like playful like learning time around what it is that they're dealing with as well. And so when they found that when the kids attended the camp and understood more about what their how the illness was impacting them, they were able to go back to school and their families and be in a just much more peaceful and relaxed place. And I think the camaraderie and the community and what it is that camp creates is quite extraordinary. So I wish you luck with that mission. I know it sounds like it's going to happen because we put it out there today, and so we'll just let that happen. And if we want to make it virtual and you want to do some camp that's virtual around that, let me know, and we can help with that at Happy Camper Live too. We actually work with the National Guard in providing camps in Hawaii and in California a couple of years ago too for kids who aren't able to go to physically get to the camp. So there's lots of ways to reach kids, and even if you can't set up something at the community center, there's lots of programs that you can get involved with. So RJ, thanks for being such an inspiration. So great talking to you at the Happy Camper Live, Raising a Happy Camper podcast. And I look forward to talking to you and Tyler when we find him. Okay.
all right, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'll say you have a great afternoon. What time is it there? It's noon,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right in the afternoon. So great. Thank you so much.
Take a moment to shine.